like this, and I asked you to find the value of x, what would you do? Subtract 3, right? And we would get x equals 7. That's easy, right? But what if I changed it and I said, what if you had x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0? Okay, subtract 6 is what you say, but then what would you do? You've got 2 x's there.
I do like terms and then you divide.
No, come on.
You don't have any like terms because like terms means they have the same exponent and those don't. I'm kind of setting you up here.
Now you just say you can't factor it.
No. What'd you say, Brady?
You can't say you can't factor it.
You can factor it. But what would you do if you factored it?
Dude, take out.
You what?
Divide.
You would get 0. I want you to think about something with me for just a minute. We're going to come back to this. Let's say I have 2 different numbers, 2 different things here, x and y, I'll call them. If I can tell you that they equal 0 when you multiply them, what can you tell me about x and or y?
They both well with 0.
Gotta be, right? That's the only way. Do we all agree?
Right.
So we have to say that x equals 0 or y equals 0 or both equal 0. Any of those solutions would satisfy the equation, right? That's what we call the zero product property. When you multiply 2 or more things together to get 0, one or more of them has to be 0. That's the only way to get 0. That just makes sense, right?
Right.
So now if we go back to that equation that I gave you to start with,
X gotta be 0.
well, not x, but I'm not multiplying there. I've got x squared plus 5x plus 6. But Brady, you were on the right track when you said something about factoring. Because think about what factoring does. Factoring gets me into 2 pieces
Oh, you put that in your calculator.
that are multiplied together, right? Aren't those multiplied?
Yeah.
So wouldn't you think then if I've got this times this equals 0,
One of them's gotta be 0.
this one's got to be 0, or this one's got to be 0, right? So to solve it, what we can do is we can factor it, and if I put this in the box, same signs, right? What multiplies to 6 but adds to 5?
3 and 2.
3 and 2. What's the GCF here?
X.
And here?
3.
And here?
X.
And here?
2.
So I've got x plus 3 So if I've got x plus 3 times x plus 2 equals 0, then one of the 2 is 0. So I'm going to have 2 solutions. I'm going to say x plus 3 equals 0, or, so what are my 2 solutions here? Negative 3. So I want you to look at what I've added to yesterday's lesson. The only thing I've added is, number 1, it's got to be equal to 0, right?
Right.
Once it does and I factor it, I put each piece to 0 and solve. That's the new part. You can solve these, right? That's easy. All right, so let me write you a couple steps here. I'll give you all a second. Some of you still writing. I'm going to force it to do that. So to solve by factoring, the first thing you have to do is you have to make the equation equal 0. That's going to be your first step every single time, okay? Before you factor, before you solve, before you do anything, I want to make sure that my equation is equal to 0. For example, and I'll run a little example right here beside it. And when you do, you really want to make sure that your first number is positive. Let's say I have 5x squared minus 14x equals 3. Well, before I can solve it, I need to make it equal 0, so what should I move? The 3. Okay, how do I move it? Minus 3, right? Because there's nothing to combine it with. The 3 has no like terms. I just write it. So I have 5x squared minus 14x minus 3 equals 0. Okay? My next step is no, Shane. The only thing I did was made sure one side has nothing but 0. Okay? Most of the time you're going to be set up like this, but if you're not, you need to make sure you can get there. Make it equal 0. Okay? All right, my next step is to factor just like I've been doing, the exact same steps. Do I have a GCF? Is it a special pattern? Can I put it in the box? So looking at this, does it have a GCF?
No.
Nope. What are my signs going to look like if I factor? Mixed. Okay. First box is what? 5x squared. The last box is what? Negative 3. Tell me the two things that multiply to negative 15x squared but add to negative 14. Okay, look. Negative, say it again. 1 and negative 15. Yes?
Always.
Always. Not always, but for this one, always. All right, up and over, GCF. How about here? 1. Nothing new yet, right? The only new thing is we made the equation to 0. How about here? Well, x. And how about here? Negative 3. Okay, so factored, this thing looks like 5x plus 1, x minus 3. Is anybody confused? The difference here is there's an equal sign now where there wasn't one before. Yes? All right. Now I'm going to take each piece.
So why don't we just take everything out and begin with and do that, and then at the end of the thing just have to do it?
We pretty much did. You can ignore the 0 to start with, and then if you want to. Okay. Last step. Here's the new part, right? Set each piece to 0. Darren, put that away, please. And solve. These should be easy 1 and 2 step equations when you do this, because look, you've got these little parentheses here, okay? So I do 5x plus 1 equals 0. And I do x minus 3 equals 0. Can you solve those two?
Yeah.
Sure you can. How do you solve the first one? Minus 1. And then what? Divide by 5. I'm out of room here. Negative 1 over 5. There's one answer. And I don't have to do anything else with it. That's it. Okay? How about this one? Plus 3. Two answers. Whereas when you had a line before and you were solving a linear equation, you had one answer. Now I've got a quadratic with this exponent of 2, and I get 2 answers. Does that make sense to everybody? Tell me what you think, factor and solve. Hard.